name is Arjun Dixit. I'm a senior manager at MicroSave Consulting on the climate change and sustainability practice. We're very happy to welcome you to this webinar that's being hosted by Apraka and MicroSave Consulting as part of our climate change resilient agriculture virtual club. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers and we're looking forward to the conversation today. The webinar will be facilitated by Mr. Prasun Kumar Das, who's the General Secretary of Apraka, and I'm handing it over to Prasun sir so that he can kick us off. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun. Good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to join this, those who have joined this webinar on the need of catalytic financing for mainstreaming inclusive finance, climate adaptation finance for smallholder farmers. This webinar, as Arjun already informed, is being organized under the banner of Climate Resilient Agriculture Virtual Club, which was launched recently to reach out to the community of practice, supporting adaptation of climate resilient agriculture and mitigation. I'm mindful that all of you have joined today are working on the ground with the farmer, banker, policymakers, and the gross experience might be more than 200 years. So I would not take much of your time to speak on all these things, but I just wanted to give a overview on that the point of discussion we will have in this webinar. So we have three presenters. Of course, one of them, and we do have also one of our colleague, Mr. Sandeep Bhattacharya, who is the advisor climate change in GIZ, based in New Delhi, and the other panelist today is Ms. Krati Garg, the manager innovation finance in COIS. So all of them will be discussing one by one, and I request you all of you to raise your questions on the chat box so that we can take a few of them after all the presentation is over. Most of the discussion points will be covered by the presenter, so I'm not going into the detail of that. But I just want to start with my presentation. Can you please? Yeah. Normally, you go to my presentation. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So, yes. So the question raised in our virtual club, that do we really need to mainstream climate adaptation finance for the agriculture sector? As we all know that climate mitigation finance is already there for energy sector, for transport sector. So, but we do have very little amount going to the adaptation. And upon adaptation also of that, agriculture is definitely one of the missing link. So, so what we did here is try to understand that whether we really need, or what are the areas which actually need to be covered under the climate adaptation finance for agri-food sector. So, so the coverage of this particular presentation will be some of the generic thing which we encounter in ag finance, and then some challenges and impact of climate finance to agri-food sector, drivers, trains, instruments in climate finance. I just will walk through some of them. Supply and demand side issues, which are very important for the slow movement of this adaptation finance. And so the positives of financial service provider where we can, to which we can promote green climate finance as ambitions, enablers, and ecosystem of the green finance, scalable innovations in green climate finance, and what we can do differently. So these are the outline. We have in the generic where we encounter some issues in ag finance. Can I go to the next slide, please? We have the generic encounters in ag finance, which next one. So we start with the pain points. So we just try to cover only 2 pain points, but there might be many of them. But you can go to the next, please. Yeah. Yes, thank you. So the agricultural actors with special reference to the smallholder, I mean, it's not only in India, but might be in this particular region. So Asia Pacific, we have more than 80%, and globally we see it is 85%. They control agricultural business, and they encounter a number of challenges. So on climate finance to agriculture, definitely we need more in the adaptation. So what we tried here to understand what are the pain points and then the risk. The risk here is in the plethora of risk actually. So one major risk is the policy, weather, performance, counterparty risk, collateral risk, operational, and the covenants. At the same time, we have some anxieties at the financial service sector, limited bankable borrowers, small ticket size, limited farmer aggregation. But in India, farmer aggregation is going on, but to keep in the size of the country and the number of farmers, this current aggregation size is not at all scalable. Then limited ag finance expertise. Next, please. Now, when we see the challenges of climate finance to agri-food sector, first we have to think about the myths. What are the two major myths? The first myth in agriculture and food system collectively are the greatest cause of biodiversity loss and global greenhouse gas emission. You will see many of the reports across the globe, they always come out with their reports that agriculture is providing around 40% of the total global greenhouse gas emission. So that is myth number one. Myth number two is climate change continues to increase the strain on the global food system, as well as increasing carbon dioxide concentration. So if these are the myths, then the challenges, if we see, the scale of climate finance need is large, if the myths are correct. But it requires agreed taxonomy. I mean hereby that what are the definition, whom we call it a climate finance, whom we call it a sustainable finance, which one is the green finance. So all these will help us to offer the right policy choices. Then current flow of finance not focus on green investment opportunities. Even if you have the investment opportunities in the green, whether you are focusing on that or you are focusing some other thing, and now green is coming as a part of the whole investment. So green climate finance lacks comprehensive legal foundation also. We do not have a legal foundation at this moment. Reporting and coordinating mechanism is not in place. What happened if a financial institution or a investor want to invest in green agriculture? What kind of reporting they will do? Then lack of strategic roadmap to reorient and reform green climate finance, both at the demand and supply side. But these are the regular challenges. But the major challenge faced by the funding agencies, one of our colleagues is already there, is from the funding agency. They have the incidence of greenwashing. So greenwashing by the issuer of green climate finance, especially the bonds, this become a major challenge to the funders. Coming to the impact. Next slide, please. So coming to the impact of green finance, it can build resilience, improve the basic performance, integrity and reach, integrate the regulations, develop market and institutions, policies and incentive structures, public finance, use public finance effectively can leverage private industry. So all these are the impact. Next, please. Now, if we see, there are many forum we talk about the movement in the green climate finance is slow. It is slow from which side, whether it is the supply side are slow or the demand side are slow. We tried to do some study on this and found that both the supply and demand side are equally involved in the slow movement. If we go to the supply side, you see the traditional agriculture finance is already extremely challenging. All of you know that ag finance is becoming challenging and it is becoming more, and many embedded lease growth. Limited knowledge on greening agricultural development. What do we understand about greening agriculture? Well, because it's an adaptation. Lack of tailored financial product. Most of them are vanilla product. So common product, like for example in India, Kisan credit card doesn't have any element of green or climate finance on that. Inadequate alternative collateral. This is one of the major issues we are flagging everywhere, wherever APRACA is working, that collateral instruments currently are, that is only the hard collateral are available, but we need to have inadequate alternate collateral. One of them we are proposing as a regulation. The other one of the infrastructure. The one we have not written here is the carbon credit. Can a carbon credit be an alternate collateral? And how it will be done? So all these things are, in the supply side are basically important. Coming to the demand side, if you see the slow pace of adaptation to climate and natural hazards, which involve challenges in agricultural management practices. So their management practices is still, they are very slow in adaptation. GAP, the good agriculture practices, affected by the range of uncontrollable factors. Even if you are practicing the GAP, you do not have proper policy environment, natural endowments are not supporting, non-diversified household income, which is also very important in case of any event, climate event, you do not have any other opportunity to, you have to only depend on the government. Low level of awareness about green finance product instruments. They don't know what are the green finance and instruments available. Next, please. So if we see the drivers of climate finance, who drives a climate finance? There is a study made by the Global Green Finance Index. They do index around every 2 years. So this index is from 2021. It shows that the policy and regulatory framework is the major driver. There is a 354. Whereas if you see climate change, it becomes the third important index. So these are the public awareness is the fourth important. So there are issues which are majorly related with the policy and regulatory framework. Even if you see the nationally determined, the NDCs, commitments, nationally determined commitments of any country, they have not even, if you see the NDC documents of any country, they have not gone out for any climate adaptation for agri-sector specifically. They have adaptation as a part of the NDC, but not in agri-sector. Even if it is in agri-sector, they do not have the bifurcation or further clarification what kind of they will do. So these are the major issues. Next one, please. Now coming to the global trends, some of the trends I just want to give only two of them. One is the green bond issued by the World Bank. If you see the green bond issued by the World Bank, only 17% actually going to agriculture, land use, and forest ecological resource. It means that it has even it's a bond. It's a privately placed bond, and that too, it's only 17%. And it goes majorly in the land use. And we also did a study on the GCF, where we found that only 12% of the global climate fund project actually go to the agri-food sector, which is primarily agriculture project. But the most important part of it is that only 1.7% of the global climate finance goes to the small-scale farmer, which is scary. No, how it is, and disproportionate to the vulnerability. So that's very important. Next, please. Yeah. So green climate finance instruments. So we tried to put some instrument. I think our colleagues would maybe. So I just don't want to go detail of these. But what we found that debt equity, debt plus equity, credit enhancement, and risk transfer. So the major green finance instrument available. But if you see the financial instruments available under the common agricultural policy across developing country like at the global south, have a significant potential in contributing to the achievement of Green Deal ambitions. So the Green Deal, whatever the countries are promoting, or maybe they are trying to come up with the Paris Agreement, all ambitions are more specifically of the farm to fork and biodiversity strategies. So the country strategies will be the most important, and the policy will take the driver's seat on whether which kind of green finance instrument they will use. Next one, please. Now, positives, there are some positives. I'm not going into because all of you are from banks, you know the positives of FSPs, but definitely the financial service providers do have a lot of positives which can be explored and which can be used by the policymakers to make use of the climate finance. Next, please. Now, what are the green finance ambitions and in agri-food sector? What we need actually, the policy promoting flow of private capital. See, the private capital becoming more and more important in green agri and climate finance. Enablers for institutional investors in greening agri-food sector. We need some enablers. Broad policy areas to support green finance instruments, macro and micro prudential market making and credit allocation. Engagement of stakeholders, both the demand and supply side. So we can see that most of the cases we don't see the central banking agencies are coming up with their areas of interest in the climate, green and climate finance. And other public sector institutions are also, they don't see each other. So that's a very big issue, that the stakeholders engagement matrix is not basically followed. Next one, please. Now, what are the enablers? Knowledge-based collaboration, which we are doing now, plugging multifaceted risk of agriculture, policy environment with greater coherence, coordination, and integration, innovations and tailor-made green financial instruments, strategies and instruments of financing climate smart agriculture. We have to identify which one are the climate smart agriculture, whether it is water use or it is energy use, which one will come as a climate smart, or it is a seed. So national, regional, and global network like this virtual club we are organizing. Next, please. We try to build an ecosystem for this, and all of them, that there are public support mechanism will be at the top of it as umbrella, and then public sector, private sector, there are some cross cuttings. The most important part here is the green finance escalators. If you see the escalators, we try to identify 4 escalators. Innovation incubators. Where are the innovations? I'll go to the innovation later. Networks and associations. Research and advisory services, because it is not the financial institution who will do all the work. The research and advisory services should come from the other agencies. and international corporates. Next, please. The innovations in green climate finance. We identified 4 types of innovations can work in green and climate finance. Innovation in delivery instruments and good practices. For example, cash flow based finance, blended finance, green equity investment funds, mezzanine equity. Then innovation in policies and enablers, like a fiscal incentive to FSPs who are working on the green and climate finance, policy push to safeguard the investments. Then technology based, we all know climate smart agri lending platform, digital insurance, digital advisory, and then promotion of innovative green tech, which are like low cost green technologies in agriculture. Then innovation in risk proofing techniques. For example, partial guarantee, risk sharing facility, first loss guarantee, ESG. The most other one is the integrated approach, which is ESG monetizing, how you monetize the ESG, rating and reporting standards. Next one, please. So what we can do differently? We can do differently the 5 areas. Intensive policy level engagements, where the coordinated engagements will be done at the national, regional, government level, what we are trying to do, pushing it. Establishment of institutional structure to support the NDCs. And NDCs would come out with annual or maybe biannual changes in their approaches. Scaled up engagement with the financial institution level. Actually, financial institutions are being not being touched by the green finance mechanism. They are mostly interested in the value chain actors, for example, only the upstream value chain actors, big size. So that is very important to scale up the engagement with the financial institutions, central banks, and other financial institutions. Setting up of medium and long-term priorities for green and climate finance to every food sector. Establishing a dedicated agri-green finance or equity fund, or maybe we are discussing about many at the national level to promote adaptation. And the 4th one is the strengthening public and private partnership, which is already underway, but not in agri-food sector much, not in the sustainable delivery of the agriculture or the food sector. And finally, promote the regional and international corporates. Please. So, walk the talk. Inclusive and representative taxonomy. We do not have a taxonomy at the moment in most of the countries in Asia, except Singapore, China, and Japan. Then we need to have a bridging the disconnect between the demand and supply. The demand side doesn't know what the supply side has to offer. Expanding fiscal incentive. Those financial institutions, those will be involved in this this adaptation program, they should receive some kind of financial incentive. Then strengthening the global pooled green finance mechanism. There are GCF, GEF, there are many of them. So that under investment in green agriculture contributes to slow progress. And then finally, innovation in financing mechanism. So we have to do all these 5 together to actually improve the situation. Next, please. I think I finish here. We have developed some two instrument, not exactly instrument, but two mechanism with our one of our project with International Climate Initiative, where we are working in 6 countries and 14 micro FSPs to develop some debt market instrument to support from the to get support from the private investors. I stop here, and then I think the questions will be considered after completion of this. So I would like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Sandeep Bhattacharya, Advisor Climate Change in GIZ. Sandeep is responsible for strategizing and executing climate-borne initiatives, first to drive the development of the South Asian green finance market and stakeholders' engagement in the country. He is working with a wide variety of stakeholders like bankers, consultants, academic institutions for last 15 years. Sandeep will now share his experience on the role of the DFIs in taking a lead in catalytic finance lessons from GIZ program in India. You are welcome, Sandeep, and you have 15 minutes for your presentation. I have seen it is short, so you can just go through. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I would want to do is what I'm presenting is a live situation really. Is something which we are currently doing, and maybe after this, some people can have suggestions on what can be the form of catalytic intervention which can help. So let me give a little bit of a background and this thing. So the first slide, please. Yeah. So yeah, the next slide, please. Yeah. So we tied up with an entity called the Sustain Plus Energy Foundation, and they had done work in many remote places in India. They collectivized farmers, around at least 125 farmers, which would mean around 4 to 5 villages. They collectivized, got them together, and introduced some technologies. Now, when you create at least 125 farmers, the ecosystem gets a certain degree of momentum, which means that traders are also attracted by the volumes which are being produced, and introduced certain technologies which would have improved the livelihood. So this is a publication which is on Sadhan's website. It was co-authored by us, Sadhan, and of course Sustain Plus Energy Foundation. So they work. There are 2 or 3 firms within the Tata Trust Group who work this way, and they have worked for around 3 years, and the increase in income has been proven to be sustainable. So therefore, that is the now you can't keep on expanding by using capital from philanthropic sources. There's got a limit. It's very scarce. So therefore, we thought of coming together. We came together, and with the help of Sadhan, to many technologies. What we did was we selected 9 of these technologies initially. And next slide, please. Yeah. We selected around 9 of these technologies for showcasing to financial institutions. And how did we showcase this? That was the major difference in how anybody else or maybe somebody else would also do it, is that we got users, not so much the manufacturers, but the users of these technologies to come to those events and explain to microfinance institutions about why it is of use to them, why there's an economic benefit there. And some of them stated that yes, for the next purchase we want a loan. Yeah, so that's what they said. For the next purchase we want a loan. Therefore, we went ahead. Now The certain financial institutions, depending on what their current portfolio was, showed interest in a few of these technologies. And I'm not supposed to be naming them here, but we can go to the next slide, please. Again, these 9 technologies are documented in this, the covers which you are seeing. This is also on Sadhan's website. Yeah. So there are solar powered drip irrigation, then a pump which is solar powered, and then it's drip irrigation which effectively is using solar power. A biodigester which uses animal manure to create cooking gas, and also use a slurry which is used as a biofuel. So this is a standardized one. This earlier has been a failure because there was no standardization of the design and the construction. So these are units made out of plastic, which enclose and cause the anaerobic reaction, which causes the cooking gas, and also the slurry, so that less of chemical fertilizer is used. So the drip irrigation, since it reduces the use of water and increases productivity, the climate resilience is very obvious. Biodigester also, it prevents people from cutting down trees, and also provides them the instrument for doing farming in a natural way, which generally results in strong plants and therefore can weather storms better, and also reduces soil degradation. So that's also the reason why it is there. Now there's a portable solar pump which can use puddles of water here and there to so that small sense of lands which were earlier very difficult to cultivate can be cultivated. I also came to understand that in places like the Araku Valley, where there are streams and ripples, this can be a very useful instrument because it's very light. It's around 2.5 kg, and women can carry it. And maybe 7-8 people can use it in the same day. You carry the solar panels, you carry the pumps, everything you carry. So there are 2 MFIs who are interested in solar pumps. There are 1 or 2 more who are interested in a biodigester as well. So with the help of Sadhan, we created interest in these. Now the next slide, please. If you can go to the next slide. Yeah. So now, in one case, as you saw, the drip irrigation, 22 sets have already been disbursed with a loan. So some of the issues which need addressing is, which we have heard from the FIs, most of them, is that while they might be keen and understand that an equipment creates economic value, what about the after sales and the maintenance? It's not, if they stop functioning and if the after sales and maintenance is not that great, because these are not the Samsungs and the Samsungs or the Godreges or the LGs of the world. They don't have extensive setup for giving the after sales or the maintenance, after sales service or the maintenance. What happens then? Then some of the cost of some of the devices were not that great. So we were told that a product which currently has a landed cost of INR 46,000, the pump really, would be much more. The preferred point is around INR 30,000. Yeah. So that's the case. So there's some cases we have to reduce the cost of the devices. Maybe initially give a certain amount of subsidy. Then there are the question of how scalable are the devices. How widely usable are these devices? The pumps, these pumps are used for surface water, not for water which is very deep. We can't use it for that. So this is suitable for places where there are puddles, ponds, ripples, collections from which on the surface which can be used. These are not for groundwater. So everything has a scalability issue. Like we found that for the biodigester, if the cattle shed is very far away from where the people live, then it becomes difficult because somebody has to carry the cattle manure into the biodigester. So it is better where the cattle and the people live next to each other. So the cattle manure can be put in the biodigester, and it can the gas can go. And another thing is, since this is with microfinance institutions, as you know, the microfinance institutions are not deposit taking institutions. They can't take deposits from the public. Therefore, if you have some refinancing, that's a great incentive. And we are trying to ensure, ensure some more of this. So here is the situation, and I would want to throw open the question to everyone as to what do you think are the most appropriate catalytic instruments in this situation. Thank you, and I'm open to more questions or maybe just somebody's ideas. Yeah?
Prasansa, are you there? Thank you, Sandeep. Maybe Prasansa will come back, but maybe we can take questions at the end. So let's move on to Kathy. Thank you.
Hi everybody.
Hi, Kathy. Over to you, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Partha. Hi, glad to be here. Thank you for having me here, MSc team. And yeah, so Prasansa talked a lot about financing in general. What I'm going to do is zoom into an impact investor's lens on climate financing. And though we're talking about climate adaptation, I will talk about why climate financing in general is quite interesting for impact investments today. So if we can have the slides, please. Thank you. Yes. So before I get into this, let me reflect, and all I talk about is India context. Let me reflect upon a few numbers from last year. So 314 days out of 365 days last year recorded one extreme weather event, at least one weather event each day for 314 days out of 365 last year. 2 million hectares of crop area was impacted because of these, and this is roughly 1.25% of the agricultural land area in India. We've heard about the wheat crop getting damaged due to heat in one season and hailstorm in other season. So I can go on and on, but the moot point is that our agriculture is impacted by weather and heavily impacted by weather. And with climate change, these erratic weather patterns have increased, making it imperative to look at it. Now coming to our farmers, more than 50% of Indian population derives their primary source of income from agriculture. And therefore, 90% of these households are smallholder farmers, that is having less than 2 hectares of land. Therefore, for us, it is a challenge involving livelihoods primarily. The agricultural, the farmers involved in agriculture have a livelihood challenge because of these increasing weather patterns. The man days in fields are reducing over the years. Secondly, agriculture puts food on our plate, and the crop yield per acre is decreasing because of erratic weather patterns. Again, so second, it is a food security challenge for us. And if not solved, it will increase the number of hunger and malnutrition cases in India by 2030, and that's recorded. And third, agriculture, and we would like to believe in the myth that was mentioned by Prasoon sir. 18 to 20% of GHG emissions in India are coming from agriculture. So considering this triple challenge, which involves social and economic problems, we believe that this is a problem worth solving and needs an intervention. Now we know there's a problem that exists. What about the solution? Are we doing something about it? And that's where we see an opportunity. By some estimates, India needs at least 1 trillion in climate finance till 2030, and at least a third of that is required in the agriculture and food systems. That translates to a 35 billion annually. What we've done till now, according to numbers in 2021, was less than $1 billion, and that too majority into off-farm solutions. Clearly, we were not working we have not done enough in this sector, and there's a huge commercial opportunity, as well as an opportunity to create impact. Next slide, please. Now, there's a challenge, there's an opportunity, and there's a potential to create a positive social outcome. Where does the role of an impact investor fit in, and why an impact investor? So an impact investor comes in and works at the continuum of impact and returns. Their primary job or work is to demonstrate that it is possible to create positive social outcomes along with reasonable commercial returns, right? And how they've traditionally done this is they are able, or they have the knowledge to evaluate innovative and new business models which have the potential to create scale and be sustainable, right? So this is what impact investor is good at against a traditional lender who would look for a hard collateral to provide you some kind of financing, right? Because of this ability, impact investor is able to take risks and channel mainstream commercial finance raised by them to generate returns with impact. However, the key thing that I want to stress here is that for an impact investor, it is important that there is social as well as commercial outcome. So what I want to again emphasize is an impact investor does not necessarily mean a subsidized capital, but it does solve for access to capital into a sector which is unknown or less known to traditional investors who are not willing to take that risk, whereas an impact investor is. How does that then translate into solving the impact problem? So as I mentioned, impact investors got commercial capital, they need commercial returns, but they are willing to take risks. Therefore, there needs to be somebody in the ecosystem who can address those market gaps and help an impact investor enter these business models or business solutions. So that is where the role of a catalytic financing comes in. And the way we see catalytic financing is an ecosystem approach to impact, where every actor plays their role. This could be through blended finance, this could be through guarantees, this could be through a TA providing TA capacity building. So for example, if there is a pump, and I'll take the example that Sandeep mentioned on some of the productive use assets he was talking about. We at COES are also working on adoption of solar pumps, increasing the adoption of solar pumps, the small ones. And one of the common problems we've heard is that the after sales service is not good, right? So potentially a solution could be, can we build capacity for the OEMs to have better after sales service? If the after sales service is better, then the NBFCs or the commercial capital, the impact investors are better able to evaluate the potential for returns and enter into the market. Another example, if there is a new productive use asset or a new kind of business model which needs investment and the impact investor is not allowed to take risk beyond their mandate, a first loss guarantee or a partial risk sharing in this case helps in bringing the commercial capital from impact investor into the investment. The third and one important kind of catalytic financing could be a blended finance approach is pay for success, where a donor comes in and pays for the impact generated through such a ecosystem approach, where commercial capital is brought in by the impact investor, and the donor capital is used to pay for the success of achievement of impacts, right? And to be able to use these kind of catalytic financing approaches, right, this helps all in the ecosystem. A donor gets more impact for the amount of capital that they are bringing in. The sector gets more commercial capital and hence more potential to scale. But to achieve that, what is important is we need to be able to prove the impact that we are generating. And for that, we need standard and agreed impact measurement frameworks. These impact measurement frameworks will help an impact investor, investee, as well as the donors to help understand where their money is going. They are able to pay for success based on these impact measurement frameworks. So therefore, this helps build credibility within the ecosystem on impact generation, prevent greenwashing, and help in monetizing this impact in the long run. So with this, I would conclude on what we feel about the role of climate finance from an impact investor's lens. At COES, we believe in an integrated approach to climate smart agriculture, where we look at all the players across the value chain. So though I know this is more focused on smallholder farmers, but thinking about across the value chain, from smallholder farmers to the collectives and all the way to the agri SMEs, helps to ensure that the chain is not breaking and we are achieving sustainable impact that can last us long and help a positive climate action. With that, I stop. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Krati. I lost few minutes because of the internet. So I would, on behalf of this Climate Resilient Agriculture Virtual Club, I would like to extend gratitude to both Sandeep and Krati for sharing extremely important information, which are practical and also some of them are doable. And we can continue with this discussion in the next sessions also. We are also happy to see that around 92 people, participants are already here from various sectors in the webinar. And for the interest of time, actually, we are left with around 12 minutes. I'd like to take a few questions, which you can try to put it in the chat box, or maybe you can come up with your with the hands raised, so that we, and please tell whom you want to ask the question, and what is your question. If there is any comment also, that also welcome, but it should be short. Yeah. Is there anybody who has any question, please? I can't see any hand raised yet. Not even in the chat box. So if you do not have any question, I have few questions to both to Krati and Sandeep. I think Krati raised one of the major issue related to the post-sale services. We have experience. We implemented one project in Cambodia on the biodigester, and that was a massive, like huge countrywide program. So what we found that there is the supplier of the biodigester is a French company. And then after 1 year, because the project was a 5-year project. So after 1 year of this installation, we do not have much of, some of the like 30% were not in use. And when we did a survey midterm, we found that, oh, they don't know how to do it. So we do not have a kind of a cadre developed in the locality. If they want to have it, if they have to travel around 200 kilometers and they charge very high. So it become a failed program. Then we found that if we have not done our basics right, then it is really a failed program. So I'm asking Sandeep also, how you are tackling in your GIZ program in Delhi? Question to Sandeep. Sandeep, can you hear me? Yeah, if Sandeep is not there,
sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, the question. Yeah.
Have you heard the question?
No, sorry, I was listening. What was? Yeah.
Okay. No, the question was that how you manage the post-sales services. If it is a countrywide program, and then you have four innovation you have identified, and after 1 year, I mean, we have a big experience of a failed project in Cambodia on the biodigester. So because they do not have the cadre who can do the service. So how you are managing?
Okay, so yeah, so this is a question which we are grappling with right now. We have not managed because there's not much of not wide scale rollout. Am I audible?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
So the rollout is not very wide scale. So we have not come to the problem now, but we are very much aware of the problem. Some of the options are that a biodigester, the one which we are looking at, is not very difficult to maintain. It's plastic and it's about nuts and bolts. Largely about nuts and bolts fitting properly, but it's not that simple either. So one of the options which we have thought about is for certain things which are relatively simple, we created do-it-yourself videos about maintenance in the vernacular. That is one thing which we have thought about. The second thing which we have thought about is that we have a bunch of such technologies, a few pumps, a solar-driven dryer, a solar-driven grinder, a few other things, and we create capacity building in using maybe the public infrastructure like schools, local schools, and we train some of the people in 5 or 6 of this. Now, when there's a chicken and egg issue here, if there's not enough critical mass, then if you have gone in too slowly. So this we are hoping is that some youth will be employed as people who can repair these things. They are not terribly complex. You don't really require. What we have guessed is it does require somebody to be what should I say, literate, but it doesn't require a great degree of academic qualification to do all these things. So the very problem of absence of maintenance can, with some capacity building through, you have a program on skill development. There's a National Skill Development Council. Once it reaches a certain scale, we can possibly use the National Skill Development Council's outreach to train a fair amount of people, and the problem can actually become a source of livelihood. So these are thoughts right now. The last one, which I stated, requires a certain degree of scaling up. I mean, if there are 5 devices in 5 villages, there's no point going to a skill development council and saying, "Hey, please create training of 50 people." So we'll have to time that well. So we'll possibly have to do with some do-it-yourself videos. There are some helplines, but I'm not sure, the helplines can speak in the vernacular and therefore will it be effective. By the company to the local youth about training, about the training. And when there is a scale up, we use some of the countries, infrastructure and national skill development council to scale it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandeep. I think we have a question for Krati, that what are some of the advances that have been made in terms of standard measurement framework for climate resilience impact. So it is Arjun Dixit asked this question to Krati. Can you see this?
Yes, hi, thanks.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there are a lot of measurement initiatives that I see rather than standard measurement frameworks right now. And that's what my knowledge is. Common taxonomy, as well as how do we measure those, is something that is still in development around the ecosystem. That's why I stressed it is very important, because without that, it's very difficult to measure impact and report it and to be able to get financing for this. I think Prasoon sir would have more to add to this.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, actually, the whole reporting system in green climate finance is not it's just a vague in India right now, because we do not have the taxonomy clear. No, the protocol also not very clear. So whatever we do in agriculture can be defined as a green finance. But the standard measurement, if you have the taxonomy, then you have the indicators, and based on the indicators, you have the measurements. So currently we do not have a much of measurement, but impact definitely. We can say some of the impacts are there. I have seen last month there were some, some news items where they say that they have started getting the carbon credit in Punjab. But of course it is for the big farmers, and they get around $3,000, $4,000 as a for the whole year, which is not very high, because you do not have the exchange for the carbon credit, which is not very strongly monitored. So we do have to go little. We need still work a lot. The second question, that what has been the experience of blended finance in financing climate adaptation projects in India? I do not see any blended finance as such, but blended finance, if you see the definition wise, there are many blended finances going on, because blended finance, if you have guarantee, if you have credit, if you have technical assistance, altogether can be blended finance. But if you see the financial term of blended finance, giving something in the mezzanine, in tier 2, or maybe the mezzanine cassette. So that I think Krati can tell us, is there any mezzanine finance already done by COES in India?
No, so we're building a climate fund right now, but not so far. And yes, I agree with you. There are guarantees that pay for success, small pilot projects that have been done, which we know of.
Okay. So we still have one more minute, but I don't think I don't see any question. How financial institutions reach out to farmers? No. It's a very simple answer to that. That the financial institutions in India is huge structure, starting from commercial banks. They might be having more than 150,000 branches across the countries. Then we have the system of regional rural banks, which are also having around 40,000 branches, and then we have cooperative system. The primary cooperative is more than 100,000. So it's a huge system. So reaching out to the farmer is easy through the bricks and mortar method. But of late, with the digital influence, I think the innovation in digital, most of the farmers are being reached. But I mean, the access to finance or getting financial support or financial services from the banks are still having little bit in question. Yeah. What are some of the innovative initiatives in creating reliable and predictable profiles of prospective borrowers in smallholder finance? Anybody can answer this? Sandeep?
Sorry, what is the?
What are some of the innovative initiatives in creating reliable and predictable profiles of the prospective borrowers in smallholder finance space? Data
Yeah.
integrity.
Yes. The credit scoring institutions, they have done a fair amount of work on this, and what has happened is, yes, there are issues about remote areas. There are people, and how do you reach out to so many KYCs? There are issues there. Now what has happened is, microfinance institutions have a huge outreach, yeah, which means microfinance institutions have a huge outreach, so they can feed into the data of these credit scoring agencies as well. So it's been a bit of a combination of various participants accessing and if feeding in data into the credit scoring agencies, which is then available to the larger ecosystem. Now, it's not been very foolproof. There are very often there are missing gaps. Another area has been, there's been an initiative to have every person to have a bank account. And therefore, the bank account is linked to the Aadhaar card,
Right.
Which has created a very widespread amount of under digitization, through which a lot of the subsidies of the government schemes now go. But I'm not sure whether that has been used for extending the base of credit. This thing, yeah, I'm not very sure about that.
Right. No, but the smaller countries, they do have in other ways and means also to create the profile. For example, in Thailand, we do have the community-based credit profiles of the farming community in a village, because here the total population is only 65 million. So they can do it, and the data is very much they update on an annual basis. So there the country to country it varies, but in India definitely we need to have a digital system. Otherwise, it is difficult to cover the whole country. For example, in China, they have the whole country has been covered under the digital system. So they on a any point of time they know who are the producer, what they produce throughout the year, who are the consumers, everything. So it's a huge job they did already. They took around 2 years to complete. Maybe for India also they can also in the way. I think we do not have much questions anymore, and we have already crossed 4 minutes. So I thank all of you for joining this virtual club. I think it's the first time Apraka is joining this virtual club with MicroSave, and I would like to thank Sandeep and Krati for the presentation. And we hope that we meet again sometime to discuss even some more important issues, the nitty-gritties of implementation and all these things. So thank you very much again, once again.